Hello and welcome to the latest Transformers review from Hellhound, and this week we're looking at the Takara Legends release of Cup, so very similar to the Titans Return release of this figure, but I'll point out some of the differences as we go. So I'm going to start off with the figure in vehicle mode, which is this little pickup truck, sort of Cybertronian version, somewhat similar to the sort of thing that he had as the original G1 toy. You can see that the Takara Legends version also came with a Target Master as well as the Titan Master Headmaster. So let's have a look. First of all, we've got the Target Master, which can plug in at various 5mm ports. It doesn't do this very well. The Titans Return version of Cup had two blasters which fitted in here and sort of looked like, I don't know, whether they're meant to be exhausts or barrels or something, and it really does seem that this figure was designed with that in mind, because obviously this is off centre. It doesn't really, it's always in the way, but you can get a decent enough pose, but it is a bit tricky. Anyway, I'm going to put recoil off to one side for the time being and carry on talking about the vehicle mode, which is good. I like the compactness, which is at odds with the robot mode, really, which is quite tall, I think. I like the canopy here, which you can open up and take your Titan Master out if you wish, and he'll sit fairly securely in there, not as securely as some of the others. As you can see, it does a job, rolls really well. And the only error, I mean, that's putting it a bit harshly, big fists sitting there, which is a bit of a shame. But there's lots of nice panel lines on this figure. Again, Titans Return was really good for the level of detail, not quite up to the standard of Siege, but not far off, and perhaps not as overwhelming as Siege has been in some cases. You've also got some pegs to stand a Titan Master on if you wish, and again, this sort of, you know, it's quite good if you want to make him a gunner. It works quite well. Okay, let's have a look at recoil then. So in a lot of cases, for Titans Returns releases based on Target Masters, Hasbro tended to use the Target Master name as the new Headmaster name, but that wasn't the case with Cup. They called the Headmaster Flintlock, I think it was. Anyway, but Takara gave us a version of recoil. It's quite a nice double-barreled gun. These have slightly more complex transformations than the Siege and Earthrise Blast Masters. So what we need to do, we just move the arms out. We can unfold the legs and bring those round. Flip him over. Unclip the barrels and bring those down, and then if we twist him at the waist, I think he only really goes one way. Not only do we swing the waist round, but it also moves the head round, and we can also flip around the legs. So I'm gonna, hopefully this is gonna zoom in and autofocus. There we go. So he's very nicely detailed. Again, much better, I think. Well, I say much is probably putting it a bit strongly, but better than the Siege versions. Really looks good. Nice little bit of paint on the visor, and he's got decent articulation. We've got a ball joint for the arm. We can kick up. We've got a ball joint at the knee. So you know, it's good enough for this size. The only downside is, I suppose, is that there are no 3mm or whatever the small peg size is on the foot, which is a bit of a shame. So you can't sort of securely stand him on a Titan's Return playset. Anyway, we'll transform him back, ready for Cup in robot mode. The feet just peg in. They don't really do it very well, but well enough. Right, so next let's have a look at the Headmaster, the Titan Master. So again, hopefully we are we're gonna pick that up. I mean, it's a Titan Master. You've seen them before. There's a bit more paint, a bit on the upper legs, on the visor, and that's all. And he transforms as you would expect for a Titan Master, and you get this head, which is slightly different to, well, it is very different, I believe, to the Hasbro version. So definitely aping the animation model. I think it's pretty decent. All the heads have been really good, for the last several years, really, from Hasbro and Takara, and this one's no exception. Looks really good. The Takara Legends version of this figure does not have a name for the Titan Master, so we will assume that he is also flintlock. One of the great things about Titan's Return were the transformations. So we saw some really innovative transformations, certainly when compared to the desert that was Combiner Wars, and also lots of I mean, some of them have been used to death really since, such as the Chrome Dome transformation for a car, which I suppose was in turn very similar to the Streetwise Combiner Wars toy. But Cup was really interesting, as I will show you now, because it isn't what you would expect from a Transformer, where you know that the chest is going to be formed predominantly by the canopy or the bonnet of the car, and again a sort of simplified version of this to some degree has ended up being used for Ironhide in Siege. But anyway, let's get into it. So we're going to unclip these side panels. We're going to pull out the chest. We're going to, I always get into a mess with this one. As you can see, I've tried to sort of look at this thinking, how am I going to describe this while I'm transforming it? And to be honest, it's just moving panels, and not necessarily in the way that you would expect. Flip out his feet. It's really sort of intuitive when you start doing it, but it is such a departure from what you expect from, I mean, I don't know whether they've used something similar to this in some of the Masterpiece toys, but it's so bizarre when compared to standard Transformers, which is a good thing, because as I'm sort of thinking about it and doing it, it's putting a smile on my face, so I suppose that's a good thing. Unfold the arms, again, all sorts of weird angles here. Flip up the canopy, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take the sort of nose of the car, fold that up, and then this is all going to start to compress. And there we go. Pop the head in. So he's really nicely proportioned, a very human silhouette, which I think is fitting for this character. And it doesn't, I don't know whether it would have been on their minds, but you could have sort of really gone to town with the sort of old timer nature of the character and sort of, I don't know, giving them some sort of stoop or something, but they quite rightly avoided that. So we've got a very normal human sort of silhouette, which I think is good. The Hasbro version had different arms, so what they've tried to do here is give you sort of more rounded arms, again to try and evoke the character design from the cartoon. It works okay, apart from in vehicle mode, where it probably looks less tidy than sort of squared off arms that you get on the Hasbro version. In terms of articulation, so you can turn the head, there's not enough clearance to do much more than that, you get a bit of waggle. We have got a ball joint at the shoulder, so we've got a good 360 and then 90 degrees out. We've got a bicep swivel, which is very stiff. Double jointed elbows because of the transformation, and then unfortunately you've got a swivel or a hinge rather at the wrist, but it goes the wrong way, which is a bit of a shame. You've got ankle waist swivel. You can kick 90 degrees forward, you can go all the way back. As you can see, you've got a nice swivel above the knee. And then you've got 90 degrees as well at the knee, and as you can't really do much with the transformation joint. For the ankle, it just wants to clip in place. Nonetheless, again, like most Titans Returns releases, you can get fairly decent poses. I mean, I don't know why you would want your toy pose like that necessarily, but you can do. Don't know if you can get him into sort of a running pose, maybe. So how you run? Probably. It's not too bad. Maybe not on one leg. No. Oh well. Nonetheless, he's very poseable, like most modern Transformers, and unlike most modern Transformers, there's absolutely no kibble on the back, which is great. So no hindrance to posability there. The only downside is he is a bit, well, flat looking at from the side, but when are you likely to do that? Again, the benefit of having this, of course, is that he comes with his target master. The downside is the sort of designed interaction with the weapons is lost, because again, the two cannons that come with the Hasbro version clip in here and sort of give you a bit more bulks out the back, I suppose, and I don't know whether, again, maybe gives you rocket boosters or whatever. So you still got the storage, which is quite nice, and certainly something that I've used in the past when I've had them on display, but just sort of draws a little bit from, detracts slightly from the toy, but you know, he looks good. He looks fitting as an old timer of the Autobot ranks. And I think is definitely an improvement on the previous generation's version of Cup, which was okay, but was not necessarily let down, but it had an auto transformation feature which I never really liked. That also had an interesting transformation pattern centered on the sort of flatbed element of the truck, but that was much more based on a sort of pseudo-realistic Earth type vehicle. So it's nice to get something that's much more Cybertronian in style, and I think he's good. This is probably going to be my Cup for a very long time, even if they replace him, you know, over the War for Cybertron trilogy. I can't really see him being replaced, mainly because I've not really got much of an interest in the character. Yes, obviously he's in the movie and season 3 and all that sort of stuff. I never had the toy as a child, so no sort of big nostalgia factor. I never really liked the character too much in the cartoon either. So I'm pleased that I've got this one. Either version I think is worth picking up. I would have been very happy to have the Hasbro version, but at the time that I was looking to get hold of one, it was really difficult to do so, and actually the Takara version was the easiest version to get. I think I got it from Kapow Toys, I can't remember now. So yeah, so I would recommend him. I think it does somewhat suffer from the lack of some of the design elements that were obviously designed with the Hasbro version in mind, so that stops him getting the absolute top marks. But I think this is a really good fun toy. I enjoy transforming it every time I do it, and it actually gets transformed probably more than I would expect, considering, as I say, I don't have a lot of nostalgia for the character. So I think I would give him a good 4 out of 5. I hope you've enjoyed this review, and you can join me next time for another Transformers review from Hellhound.